Today I share with you the 3-step process we use with our racers to be able to double their race fitness in 90 days. Hey guys, welcome to MotoFit TV, episode number 29. Today I want to talk to you about the 3-step process or 3-step system that we use with our riders and racers. So exactly what we do in terms of when we take new riders and racers on board and the way that we map out their training and the approach that we take. So there's three key areas that we focus on, I suppose, or that we have our attention on, and these are broken down into multiple other areas. Okay, there's a whole heap of different factors that go into these 3 key areas. So the first key area is being able to have an emphasis on developing strength, but then also making sure that you're preventing future injuries with training. So with the type of training that we do, we get our guys lifting fairly heavy weights. Okay, our goal is to get them stronger. Now, what comes with developing strength and lifting heavier weights is if there's any incorrect movement, if there's any previous injuries, and those aren't corrected in the early stages of training, they end up being big issues down the track. So in other words, if we're getting our guys to squat up to 100 kilos, okay, or even more than that, then what happens is they start to progress with their training and they haven't been lifting correctly. They start to get sore knees, they get sore hips, they get a sore lower back, which means that they can't train consistently, which means that then we're affecting their performance on race day. Okay, we're creating injuries with their training, and that's affecting the end goal, which is actually improving their racing. So although we have a big emphasis on strength, the other emphasis is on movement quality. And it's taking a little bit of ego out. It's being able to be coachable. A lot of people go into their training, they're like, oh, I've been lifting weights for 20 years, for 15 years, for 10 years. I know what I'm doing. I've been doing this for ages. But the truth is there's always things to be able to learn. Okay, I've been doing this for years and years as well, and lifting heavy weights. And I'm still constantly learning, still constantly critiquing, still looking at how other people are moving, still trying to pick up things to improve my own training. And that's the same approach our riders and racers take and need to take as well, to be able to make sure that they have that long-term progress. And that stems into something else, which is consistency. With your training, you need to be able to be consistent. If you're doing squats a couple of times a week and then you get sore knees and you stop doing squats and then you go and do something else, your training is going to go backwards. You're going to have inconsistent results. So you need to be able to have that consistency with your training. So that comes into strength, but not just working on developing strength and working on the right movements, but making sure that movement efficiency is there as well, learning how to move and educating yourself, being able to make sure that you know exactly how to move and how the movement's being able to be corrected. And this also sets you up for the future as well in terms of self-diagnosis. So if you get you do a particular program and you get coached and you get that help, then a couple of years down the track, maybe you're like, oh shit, I'm getting sore knees. Maybe it's because you're pushing your knees forward instead of pushing the hips back when you're squatting, okay? Maybe there's no external rotation. Maybe there's no core bracing. Maybe there's a whole heap of different things there that you're not doing, that you've maybe forgotten about or changed, and you can go back and correct them yourself. So it's all about educating you, but or educating yourself, but then making sure that you have a system to take away with you. So for as long as you're training, you can continue to collect information, okay? Collect knowledge on how to move and how to train to become more efficient over the long term, not just over a 4-week, 8-week, 12-week cycle. So that's the first thing, strength. Next thing is the cardio and conditioning. So once you've had that emphasis on strength, then you need to be able to look at the cardio and conditioning. And we're also working on efficiency there as well, making sure what's being performed there is being performed correctly. So a lot of people do cardio and conditioning. For example, they'll go for a run. Running is actually one of the most technical movements you can do. Okay, very, very technical, very, very skill-based. But because of the ease of access to it, in other words, you don't need equipment, you don't need a gym membership, anyone can go grab a pair of runners and go for a run. There's a very high injury rate for running. Okay, whether that's ankles, whether that's knees, whether that's lower back, whatever it is, very high injury rate for running because people haven't learnt the mechanics, learnt the skills. So they'll go and run, they do heaps of kilometers, they get sore knees, they get sore ankles, they get a sore lower back, they stop doing it, they go backwards, and then they have a rest for a bit, and then they go back to it later when they feel good. And we got this constant up, down with our training. So it's making sure that we're moving correctly with the conditioning side of things as well. Being able to have an emphasis on movement quality, not just having the right type of training, so using specific types of interval training, but making sure the quality of those movements. So if you're on the rower, how can we improve your rowing efficiency? How can we make you more efficient on the rower and produce more power? Now you're probably thinking, Andrew, how does that work? How can we be more efficient on the rower? How's that really going to help with the bike? Well, when we're more efficient at producing power in our training, we're more efficient at producing power when we're on the bike. Okay, so this means in strength, it means we use less energy. So when you're more efficient at something, you have a higher output and it takes less effort. So it's a win-win. So when we can work on that efficiency with your training, we can then get that from a conscious level to a subconscious level. In other words, when we first start training and we're saying, okay, you need to put your hips back or you need to create external rotation, we need to go through the core bracing sequence, and we're implementing those types of things, and we're in the conscious stage. So we're thinking about it. We constantly got to go, okay, I've got to create external rotation, got to work on core bracing, okay, got to work on having my feet in a specific position. It's all conscious. But what we do with our training is we get it to an unconscious state, and that's where it benefits your riding and racing. Okay, it's not in the conscious stage. Because when you're on the bike, you're not thinking about bracing your core and keeping your feet in a specific position and external rotation and all this stuff. You're not thinking about that stuff. You're thinking about riding the bike and racing and taking lines and what's happening on the track. So we need to get it to a subconscious stage where you can go out on the track, you can go out and ride, and you don't even have to think about being in that efficient position, because that's when you get the real results on race day. So you want to work on getting to that stage with your conditioning and your cardio, very important. And then the third component is nutrition. You want to make sure that you have a model there to be able to follow, to not just be able to eat healthy foods, but to be able to eat effectively and efficiently and have a system there that's adaptable over time. So in other words, meal plans have been around for ages, okay? And everyone thinks that they need a meal plan. We don't do meal plans. Personally, the programs we don't do meal plans. So in other words, the riders and racers we work with didn't go, okay, you need to have 3 lamb chops and 1/8 of an apple every morning for breakfast for the rest of your life, because it's not long term and it's not sustainable. You need to have a model that's sustainable over the long term, and the only way that happens is through education, okay? You need to be able to understand how to be able to fuel yourself first, but then you also need to be able to make sure that once you've understood how to be able to fuel yourself, then that's adaptable. Okay, so if you know, like a lot of people, for example, people that want to lose weight, riders and racers that want to be able to lose weight, okay, they might know that, okay, when they train twice a day and they go and run 10 Ks a day, that they can get their body weight down, okay, and when they only eat broccoli and rice, that they lose a whole heap of weight. But that's not effective and it's not long term. Yes, you may get results from that, okay, doing a shit ton of running and eating only broccoli and rice, but is it long term? Okay, it might not be the most effective and it may get you results, but is it long term? Is it something that's going to last past the next 8 weeks or 12 weeks until you get to your goal? Or is this only going to be something that's going to be short term? Okay, and for a lot of riders and racers, they have ways, they have methods, they have systems of getting the results that they're after, of losing weight, of gaining weight, of getting stronger, of getting fitter, but it's just not sustainable. It's not something they can do over the long term. So in other words, they do it for a little bit, they get the result, they stop, they have time off, they go backwards, and then they do the process again. And it's a very painful process for them, not something that's actually enjoyable part of their lifestyle. And that's I suppose what we work with our riders and racers is getting to that point where you have those long-term systems and structures to be able to make sure that you can go the distance, okay? Not just the 12 weeks or the 26 weeks or the 12 months, but be able to consistently implement year after year and be able to adapt it, okay? When you have the knowledge, when you know how carbohydrates work, when you know which type of simple carbs you need to be having, when you know how protein works and how fats work, when you know how these things work, it's very easy to make decisions when you're out at a restaurant, when you're stuck at a pub before race day, okay? Or when you're 5 years down the track and the foods that you absolutely love now, you don't necessarily like as much then. So it's all about being able to have a model, have the education and knowing how to implement, but then being adaptable over the long term. And that's the most important thing, because the consistency, I was just thinking today, it's coming up into this year, I'll be 7 years in the strength and conditioning space, in terms of weightlifting and that particular type of training. And one of the major factors, the major things that has come up, and one of the things that I've learned is consistency is very important. You need to be able to just be there each week, each session, and just constantly putting in the work. Everyone's after I want this in 10 days, I want this in 20 days, I want this in 12 weeks. But really what you need, that might be what you want, what you need is something that's long-term, okay? You want to be able to have something where maybe it takes a little bit longer for you to be able to get there, okay? And that's perfectly fine, but know that you're going to have that result for the rest of your life, rather than working to get there in the next 12 weeks, getting there, having it for a couple of weeks, and then going backwards and then repeating that process. And that's what I see a lot of riders and racers getting stuck in, is maybe they do, some racers do have strategies, okay? They do have a training strategy, they do have a nutrition study, and it gets some type of result for them, which is awesome, but it's just not sustainable, okay? You need to have that sustainability, that long-term approach to your training, and that's what gives you the long-term results, working on a long-term game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you need help with that, if you want help with mapping out these strategies, again, like we did last week, I'm doing I've got 5 strategy calls to be able to smash through this week. And what we'll do is we can have a look at your training model, okay? Have a look at your nutrition, have a look at your training, have a look at your conditioning, have a look at exactly what you've been doing over the past months, over the past years, have a look at what we need to do in the coming months. And if we can't find 3 specific areas that are going to double your race fitness in the next 90 days, then I'll give you $100 for wasting your time, okay? I know your time's important, my time's important as well. I want to make sure we can help as many racers as we can this year to be able to get race fit, and that's part of what we're doing. So we've got 5 spots, so if that's one you'd like, you can click on the link up the top in the post and register in there, and if we've got any spots left, then the form will come up for you and we can hook up a time. But I hope you found today's episode useful and look forward to speaking to some of you. We'll see you guys then. See ya.